Good morning, everyone. Yes, it's still morning. And there are still people in the other room, but I want to get started because people have places to go and there are people online waiting for us. As you remember, we changed the bylaws so that you can vote remotely if you can't be here or don't want to be here or you're someplace else in the country. So the online portion of this started at 11:30. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And the first item is the lighting of the chalice. And Reverend Daniel was going to say a couple of words. Is he? Yes. Even as we speak.
He was just inviting them.
Oh, okay. So Reverend Daniel, if you'll come forward to light the chalice.
And as we gather in hope and expectation and curiosity and learning and growth and welcome and belonging. May the light of our chalice guide our inspiration and deliberation now and in the future.
Yes, somewhere here, maybe.
Sorry about that.
Hold on one second. We're looking for the congregational covenant. It's online on our website.
Yes.
UU Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Anybody remember where on the?
Okay, sorry about that. Our covenant. Unitarian Universalism is a conventional, non-creedal religion, a community that is committed to working and worshiping with each other in ways that foster our growth as individuals and as a community. We journey together bound in the interdependent web of existence. We, the members of the UU Congregation of the Hudson Valley, affirm and covenant to listen actively and respectfully, be accepting of all voices, seek full and equitable participation, use language of kindness, assume positive intent, approach conflict directly, and work toward a mutually acceptable resolution through honest interaction and compromise. Express gratitude for the efforts of others, honor each other's personal journeys. To create an atmosphere of trust and safety, we agree to call each other back into covenant when necessary and to forgive ourselves and others.
Thank you, Susie. We want to make sure that we have a quorum. A quorum is 30% of the official membership. So if you are an official member of this congregation, please raise your hand. Chris is counting you.
Don't forget Jim.
And we have some online.
Yeah, we're good. We have 28 total.
28, okay. So we have around 65 members, and 30% of that would be around 21. So we have a quorum. And therefore, we can move on to the next item of business, which is an official vote. There is a resolution, and the resolution is that we promote and support the renewal of our status as a welcoming congregation. This is an effort that is not a one and done thing. It's an ongoing effort to show that we support this. And I had a written resolution, but I can't find it. Does anybody have that? Can you read it, Reverend Daniel? It's up here. It's probably online somewhere. But anyway, the resolution is to support our application for renewal of our welcoming congregation status. And we are keeping in mind that this is not a one and we're finished thing. It's an ongoing effort to show our love and commitment to everyone, because we honor the dignity and honor of everyone. Thank you. Resolved, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley affirmatively supports the process of applying for renewal of our status within the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations as a welcoming congregation. We view this as an ongoing commitment to learning, growth, and action. Is there any discussion on the motion? Sherry.
I just have a question for Carrie. When we did our budget last year, there was a line item of $2,000 for inclusivity team and welcoming congregation. So I'm just wondering if I'm totally in favor of this resolution, but is that going to be a continual expense on our budget going on, or was that just to get us where we need to get to be here today?
Okay, for those of you online, the question is, we have a budget of $2,000 for the inclusivity team, and will this continue every year for the support of our effort to be a welcoming congregation? We haven't made a decision about that, but I would assume there would be funds allocated for this.
Yes, I would hope that we would have continuing funds. I don't know that we'll need that full amount, because we've got some things that will be usable, but things like workshops and continuing education are what goes into that as well.
So for those of you who couldn't hear that at home, that was the initial, $2,000 was the initial, and we have some materials that we can keep on using. But there will be a need, and of course we want to do this, for education, speakers, and other programs and events to support our status. Any other questions? Yes, Susie.
Mine isn't a question, but at the board meeting, and when we were talking about it, what impressed me is, I guess, having it on our website makes a big difference to people who are looking for this kind of thing. So if we have the official, stamp that we have worked on this, it's a good thing.
So for those of you at home, our website will state very clearly that we're a welcoming congregation, so that for potential visitors who are looking for that sort of thing, it'll be there and be welcoming. Any other questions? Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Second, many seconds. All in favor of the resolution, please raise your hand. Opposed? Abstentions? It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank you to the inclusivity team for leading us on this journey. And we look forward to much more information in the future. The second item of business is the progress on the sanctuary accessibility project. And this is mostly informational. We're not asking for a vote today, but I know many of you want to find out where we are on this project. And to fill you in, if you haven't been here for many, many years, let me give you a little bit of background. In 2018, we decided as a congregation, because we did not see how we could fulfill our mission in this building, we decided to sell it, use the proceeds from the sale, also have a capital campaign to raise additional funds to buy a property, either a pre-existing building or a undeveloped piece of property that would be easier to build a building eventually, that would be easier to maintain, and that would attract a long-term renter such as a nursery school. It would have sufficient parking and enable us to grow and live our mission. This was called Project Hudson Valley in 2018. And we brought in a consultant to help us do a capital campaign. It was pretty successful in 2019, but then the pandemic hit. And we also had a situation with a called minister that led people to be rather unhappy with the congregation, and some left. But with the pandemic, as with many churches around the country, this led to a decrease in attendance, decrease in pledges, and we realized that we would not be able to justify a move to a larger building or quarters and pursue this project. So in 2020, with the advice of the consultant who had helped us with the capital campaign, he said many churches had run into the same problem because of the pandemic. We decided to ask those who had pledged, and in many cases those who had already contributed to the capital campaign, if they would be willing to designate their gifts to a sustainability fund. And we voted to do this, and the purpose of the sustainability fund, there were three. The objectives were to make our building accessible to those with mobility issues, to improve our marketing and outreach efforts, and to ensure that we had sufficient reserves for unexpected expenses. So some of the money in the capital campaign moved over to the sustainability fund. Other people asked that their contribution be designated for the endowment. Others designated it for the operating funds that year. So we did develop the sustainability fund, and it had about $160,000 in it at one point. And we used part of it to paint the building here, to pave part of the parking lot, to give people who were parking in the disabled sticker area easy access to the walkways. We used part of the money to fix the problems with the bell tower. The roof had a problem. Currently, the fund has about $127,000 in it. And with regard to the sanctuary accessibility project, we looked into ways to provide accessibility to those who need to use wheelchairs and using walkers. And we wanted to do this because we respect the worth and dignity of every individual, and because we want to provide access to the sanctuary, to our Sunday services and other programs to everyone, regardless of their mobility issues. We felt it was important to make our sanctuary more accessible. As you know, we have a ramp that goes from the parking lot up the back of the building to the back door to the fellowship hall. And we want to find a way to bring people from fellowship hall to the floor of the sanctuary. There are 4 steps that divide divide the fellowship hall from this room. One solution identified was to put a ramp in. The idea was that we would punch a hole in the wall, build a door just to the left of where the door is now. That would come through from the fellowship hall, and there would be a platform. The platform could lead to a ramp that would come down, or it could lead to a balcony at the height, at the level of the fellowship hall. The balcony would be large enough to hold wheelchairs and regular chairs for people who want to sit up there. Or it could lead to an elevator, a vertical power lift, which would bring people in a wheelchair or walkers down. It would be an open elevator called a vertical power lift. The problem with the ramp is that ADA guidelines requires 1 foot of length for every inch in height. So it's 32 inches between the floor of the sanctuary and the fellowship hall. So we would have to have a 32-foot ramp to come down, and it would have to curve around the corner because there's less than 32 feet at the back there. And we thought this would take up too much floor space and be very expensive to build. The idea of a balcony, originally called a Juliet balcony, but we've changed it to regular balcony, is that it would be very expensive to build, and it would take up a lot of floor space, and it would separate those people on the balcony from the people in the sanctuary, and we didn't feel that that was very welcoming. So what was left was the vertical power lift. And if you've been to museums or other public buildings, you've probably seen many of them. The board thinks that this option is the most feasible, and given the expense involved, probably the least expensive. We asked Steve Rotolo, who's the husband of our administrator, Rita Rotolo, to give us some guidance. He's an architectural contractor and has supervised the installation of many vertical power lifts. And so he consulted with a number of contractors and with companies that make these vertical power lifts and gave us an estimate last week. The board has not had a chance to study this estimate in detail. It's quite complex. So we don't have a recommendation today or a resolution to present to you. But we probably will do so later this year to get your permission to spend money from the Sustainability Fund. We voted last year that we would come to you to ask for permission to spend anything more than $20,000. And you have given us permission for that, but obviously that's not enough. Note that if we undertake such a project, there will be construction of the building, and we may need to hold services on Zoom or borrow another site. Fortunately, the Fourth Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Westchester in Mohegan Lake, led by Reverend Lane Cobb, has generously offered to share their space with us if we decide to go that route. So we might have joint services there. This is all to be worked out depending on the timing. The estimate to do the construction of the doorway and the vertical power lift and make all the changes necessary to handle that is over $42,000. Some elements of the total project are still being researched by Steve. But if you have an interest in this project, we'd love to have your help. See me or anyone on the board. Your board of trustees are Reverend Daniel, Nora Mulligan, Vice President, Susie Dugas, Secretary, Chris Fenton, Treasurer, I think he's in the back, yes. Pat Krugman, Terry Lucan. Terry, raise your hand so everybody knows who you are. And Mike Kemper. Thank you, Mike, for your technical support finding the covenant. Any questions? Michael?
I thought you had applied to get a grant.
Yes. That was part of the good news, the joy. We realized we would need money, so we applied to the New York State Conference of Universalists for a grant. Their maximum grant is $5,000 each year. They granted us $4,000. So part of the doorway, that was for the doorway. At that point, we hadn't decided which method to get from the doorway down here. But yes, they are helping us for the doorway, $4,000. Margie?
Is there an estimate on how long the construction will take?
Is there an estimate on how long the construction might take? I've heard figures from 2 weeks to a month. But you know, construction is never very forecastable, predictable. Any other questions? Terry?
Not really a question, but I just wanted to share that when the board decided to go with the lift as opposed to the balcony, we had very different proposals and estimates, and the elevator option was quite a bit less expensive than it appears now. So it does need to go back before the board to decide, because, I mean, since the disparity between the two projects is a lot less, we may want to revisit the balcony. So if people have ideas or feedback about the different options, please feel free to talk to a board member about it.
Yeah, for those of you at home, Terry pointed out that when the board made the decision to recommend going forward with the vertical power lift, the estimate that we had was a lot less. It was around $15,000 to $20,000. And now it appears that since it's so much more expensive, maybe the advantage isn't as great as we thought. But of course, the other estimates may have gone up during that time too. So it could be that the balcony, you know, maybe a $50,000 project, and the ramp, you know, maybe much more expensive. You know, we're going to continue to look at this and the feasibility. Yes, Sherry.
I believe, if I recall, there's also a maintenance fee, yearly maintenance fee for the lift, correct?
Yes, Sherry said that there probably is going to be a yearly maintenance or service charge to maintain the elevator, vertical power lift. That's true if we choose to get a service contract. We talked to the Ethical Culture Society of Westchester and Ossining, and we visited their vertical power lift and had a demonstration. They chose not to get a service, an annual service fee, and they haven't needed service. We estimate that this probably will not be used very frequently, and so maybe we won't need a service contract. We'll have to work that out. But the service contract we looked at was roughly $1,000 per year. Any other questions? Yes, Michael.
So if we're not going to be using, let's say if we have the balcony, we don't use it that often, I was wondering whether it could be large enough for a choir. Well,
Probably, yes. Yeah, the balcony, I foresee, if we had a balcony, a row of chairs up there that would be attractive to many people because it's higher up, so you can see better. And maybe people with children would want to sit back there if they want to have easy access to the fellowship hall. Yes, Betsy.
Well, I had two questions. One was, if there were a balcony, how
Would go, we visualized it as going across the entire rear of the sanctuary, roughly where the current platform ends, all the way across to that wall. So it would wipe out the last row of pews on the wall back there, plus a row of chairs. But I think net, it probably wouldn't take up that much more seating, but it would take up floor area.
You could put seats up there too.
Yeah, you would
right,
put,
exactly, but it wouldn't add more seating.
No, because it would be in this room, so the seating that would be in this room would be up on the balcony, and probably a teeny bit would be lost because of the physical structure.
and we'd have to find a place to put the tech table as we have now. That might be up on the balcony too.
And my second question was, I thought I had remembered at one time, someone talking about a ramp from the parking lot over there that would come in through this door.
Yeah, we did not pursue that because of the expense of the ramp and the fact that once you're here, you would not have access to the restrooms. So we didn't think that would be very helpful. Any other questions? Yes, Reverend Daniel.
One is I just want to say a huge thank you to the board, especially Jim and everyone who's been shepherding, Susie, everyone who's been on the committees that have done this tremendous work, visiting other congregations and learning. I also want to invite, if you are intrigued, as Jim shared, we did receive a $4,000 grant for this project. The Unitarian Universalist Association, especially in New York, there are other UU-related foundations we can apply to. If you like grant writing, let us know. And that could help leverage and make this field a little more sustainable.
Any other questions? Okay.
You want to repeat that for people at home?
To repeat for the people at home, there are other grant opportunities, both within the UUA and outside the UUA, so that if you are interested in grant writing or have experience, we'd love to talk with you. Speak with anyone on the board. Okay, Reverend Daniel, could you give some closing words, please?
What a beautiful affirmation of who we are as a congregation. It was just such a glorious sight to see everyone, not even a debate, just like, let's go. So I want to emphasize the hard work the inclusivity team did in crafting this narrative of what the welcoming congregation work involves, becoming a welcoming congregation, welcoming worship services, days of observance, the religious education. That's where that grant money, the line item's really important. And also our partnerships, our welcoming projects, 4 Fridays, all the support we do with the Loft, with so many wonderful, good advocates, locally and far away. So as we say every Sunday, inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect openly and deeply, and act for justice. And in that vein, let us go and live our values today and every day. May it be so.
Thank you, everybody. I'd also like to thank Gunnell Ridstrom and Susie Dugas, who helped with the research on this. Have a good Sunday and enjoy the weather.
That was a beautiful narrative. I think very clear.
All my years of lecturing.
Yeah.